Welcome back. This is a new episode of the history of the American Mafia. The true story of the American Mafia, written and adapted to podcasts by Fabio Fabiano and translated and read by me, Grace Carlisi. I hope you enjoy today's new episode. Today we're going to talk about the beginnings of the Chicago Mafia, Big Jim Colosimo and Johnny Torrio. The Chicago Mafia, known as the Outfit, was the only independent mafia organization not controlled by the Cosa Nostra 5 families of New York. The Outfit's influence extends from Chicago to the Midwestern United States to Las Vegas and parts of Florida. But let's begin with the early years of organized crime in Chicago. At the end of the 19th and early 20th centuries, various street gangs were operating, located in the south and north sides. Then there was the Black Hand, located in Little Italy, the area of Chicago. Initially, it was a criminal group made up of Italian and Jewish gangsters led by Giacomo Cosimo Cerrone, naturalized James Colosimo, also known under the pseudonym of Big Jim and Diamond because of the flashy diamond rings he used to wear on his fingers. He left his native land, Colosimi, in the province of Cosenza to reach his father Luigi, who had immigrated in the United States before him. He landed in America in 1895 and, having worked as a boy in a butcher's shop and a street cleaner, he decided to start a career in the world of crime with cunning and violence. He started with gambling and prostitution to continue with racketing in gambling halls. The ferocity he used to conduct his businesses led him to become one of Chicago's most feared criminals of all time. He became rich thanks to the management of several brothels, where the maitress Vittoria Moresco, his wife, assisted and worked with him. Big Jim soon became the most powerful boss in Chicago, so much so, he was able to heavily influence the political and administrative life of the city, the state, and the American nation. His growing power was taken from Irish and Jewish gangs, which began to annoy him. Colosimo became so rich that the Black Hand blackmailers began demanding bribes from him. In 1909, Vittoria Moresco asked her nephew Torrio, who lived in New York, to join her in Chicago. Once in Chicago, Johnny Torrio was introduced to her husband Colosimo, who asked him for help and introduced him to the management of the business. Big Jim counted on the ability and reliability of Torrio, who did not betray his trust. John Torrio was one of the new gangsters who were finding their way into the American criminal world. He possessed an apparent pacifist nature and excellent diplomatic qualities. Torrio's first move was to contact the men of the Black Hand, under the pretext of delivering the requested extortion money. When the Black Hand extortionists showed up at the meeting place, Torrio and his men shot them down. Immediately after, Torrio was put in charge of Big Jim's gang headquarters, or Colosimo's Cafe. In 1919, he settled permanently in Chicago. In 1920, Diamond Big Jim began publicly cheating on his wife, and this was hardly fit for an Italian mobster. Therefore, you can imagine everyone's shock when Colosimo decided to divorce Vittoria Moresco, Torrio's aunt. After just 3 weeks, he married Dale Winter, a young singer. The girl had a strong influence on Big Jim, and Torrio realized that Colosimo had now become a serious obstacle to his criminal career. In fact, when the Prohibition law was enacted on January 16, 1920, Johnny Torrio, nicknamed the Brain, immediately organized an alcohol smuggling business. He made an agreement with the Sicilians, who clandestinely distilled the alcohol, and the Irish, who handled the distribution. He hired Alphonse Capone, known to this day as Al Capone, He entrusted him with the management of the brothel and gambling hall, the Four Deuces on South Wabash Street. Colosimo didn't agree with the alcohol contraband. Although it was considered the new business, it was very risky, so he didn't hide his dissent. "Forget the alcohol," he said to Al Capone. "Concentrate on the prostitute. It's less dangerous." Torrio tried to convince Cosimo to enter the smuggling ring, but he failed. With the approval of the Jenner brothers, Sicilian mobsters who controlled Chicago's west side, Torrio spoke with Frank Yale, whose real name was Francesco Rail, another powerful boss. The two studied ways to kill Colosimo. The murder was in a classic mafia style. They organized a sumptuous banquet in Big Jim's honor. They got him drunk, and when Colosimo dozed off, blind drunk, they shot him in the back of his head. It took place on May the 11th, 1920, in the largest room of Colosimo's cafe. After the murder of Big Jim, Torrio took over Colosimo's criminal empire, controlling numerous speakeasies, brothels, and gambling halls. Starting in 1920, Torrio became the head of Colosimo's organization, the most powerful in Chicago. So, now let's take a look at who was Johnny Torrio, also known as La Volpe, the Fox, and as L'Immune. He was born on the 20th of January 1882 in Irsina in the province of Matera in Italy, to Tommaso and Maria Carluccio, originally from the town of Altamura. His father, a railway worker, died in a work accident when Torrio was 2 years old. In December 1884, still an infant, he emigrated with his mother to New York. He grew up in the slums of Manhattan's Lower East Side. He began working in his stepfather Salvatore Caputo's grocery store, which was a hangout for shoe shiners and alcoholics. He later became a bouncer in an infamous club. As a boy, Torrio became leader of the James Street Gang, a New York street gang. With the money he saved, he opened a snooker hall where illegal activities such as loan sharking and gambling were engaged. Paul Kelly, born Paolo Antonio Vaccarelli, the then head of the 5 Points gang, considered Torrio's business acumen, called him to join his gang, so much so that he soon became his right-hand man. Torrio greatly admired Kelly and learned how to act and dress like a smart businessman from him. Soon Torrio and his gang controlled the illegal activities, focusing primarily on gambling and the revenues from clandestine betting, loan sharking, theft of goods, prostitution and drug dealing. Torrio used the young boys from the local neighborhood for some of his illicit business. Amongst the most promising youngsters, there was Lucky Luciano and Al Capone. The two soon earned his complete trust. Capone became a member of the 5 Points gang in 1917. Torrio hired him as a bartender and bouncer at the Harwood Inn, a Coney Island nightclub which served as a front for a brothel run by Torrio's business partner Frankie Yale. This explains why Torrio, once settled in Chicago, called Al Capone to his side as his right-hand man, and then later, to eliminate Colosimo, he asked his old partner Frankie Yale to do the job. Al Capone initially was given the management of some brothels, but he was soon in charge of the Four Deuces, the club that served as Torrio's headquarters for all his business operations. In the basement of the Four Deuces, Capone's men were said to have tortured members of other crime syndicates, while upstairs politicians and criminals were entertained with music and prostitutes. In the mid-20s, Torrio clashes with the Irish gangster Charles Dion O'Banion. In 1924, O'Banion blew the whistle and had Johnny Torrio arrested. Torrio, who was usually inclined towards diplomatic solutions, this time wasn't going to overlook the episode. He settled the accounts in November 1924 by having O'Banion killed, once again turning to his trusted friend Yale, then attended the funeral, openly challenging the rival gang. Torrio and Capone progressively took over the Chicago bootlegging market, once belonging to the slain Irish gangster. Capone and Torrio, in order to guarantee their own impunity, used to give out conspicuous amounts of money to the Chicago police officers. They expanded their smuggling network as far as Canada. An important event took place on January the 24th, 1925. Returning from a shopping spree with his wife, Torrio was on his way home. He was attacked in his car and became the victim of an ambush. The car was hit by several shots from machine guns, 45 caliber guns and buckshots from a 12 caliber rifle. Torrio's driver was shot in the legs. Instead, Johnny was hit on his arm, his jaw, his chest and his stomach. The killer, George Bugs Moran, approached Torrio lying on the ground in a pool of blood, ready to finish him with a shot in his head. But after he pulled the trigger, he realized there were no more bullets left in the gun. Torrio ended up in hospital and slowly managed to recover. During his hospitalization, he was protected by men from Al Capone 24 hours a day. As soon he was discharged, he was convicted of violating the prohibition laws. Once released from prison, he left for a long holiday in Amalfi, Italy, but before leaving, he decided to retire, leaving the 26-year-old Capone in command of one of the most powerful criminal empires in the United States. He returned to the States in 1928, as in Italy he was considered an undesirable by the fascist regime. Back in the game, he first founded the cartel of smugglers called the Big Seven, then participated in May 1929 in the Atlantic City Conference. He was greeted like a wise old man. After settling in New York, he profitably invested in real estate. He returned to smuggling and became a close associate of Lucky Luciano, Meyer, Lansky, and other bosses. Torrio was one of the most important promoters of the National Crime Syndicate, or cartel, formed in 1934. In 1936, judicial troubles returned for him. In fact, he was accused of tax evasion. The tax officials succeeded where the court prosecutors had failed, and they convicted him and jailed him for 2 years on charges for tax evasion from 1939 to 1941. He retired from the criminal business very wealthy. He died at the age of 75 of heart attack in 1957 in a barber's shop, waiting to be shaved.